So, Cosatu recently turned 40. You know, the big trade union organization that is part of government because they're in alliance with the African National Congress. They used to be a really important organization when we used to have hundreds of thousands of people working in our mines, and we still had a manufacturing industry. Country was still industrialized. We had workers, and Cosatu was very, very instrumental in and an important organization back in the 1980s and into the 1990s. Well, actually, they still exist. And they exist only as a hurdle to governance. They don't really achieve anything. As we have moved deeper into the new South Africa, Cosatu, in actual fact, have only served to hurt South Africa. We know that as they became more influential and they got more and more concessions out of government, they made it harder and harder to do business, especially the labor-intensive business. So what did people do? They just stopped doing that business, or they mechanized. So we saw our mining go from employing close on 1 million people to today where it employs a fraction of that. This is largely because of Cosatu and the success of the trade union movement, that mines have largely mechanized. We've seen the de-industrialization of South Africa, and that was because our unions had the ear of government because they were in government, and they got government to concede to every one of their demands, which made South Africa incapable of competing with foreign imports. So now, today, we have no manufacturing capacity. And this is all largely due to Cosatu. And as their influence in those industries took hold, and they had fewer and fewer members coming out of mining or manufacture, so they turned their sights towards government employees. And nowadays, Cosatu largely speaks for government employees. And of course, they have famously managed to destroy education in South Africa, right through SADTU, which is the South African Democratic Teachers Union. This is the union that teachers belong to, and needless to say, they've got all kinds of protections, and Cosatu has dramatically and at every turn stood in the way of having teachers, face up to the consequence of what they do. They have not allowed them to be evaluated. We used to have a school inspection system whereby inspectors would go to test the quality of the teaching. Well, that no longer happens thanks to Cosatu. So that's why we have an education system that is so bad, and that is why we have a pass rate of 30%. It's largely because of Cosatu. Now, the next step, of course, is in other public servants, people that work for various government departments are also unionized. So needless to say, you can go to a government department and get the service that we get. All because of Cosatu being in the alliance with the ANC. So they turned 40, and they do still have a seat at the table. Now, you must remember that Cosatu recently, the head of Cosatu, Singizwe Losi, was in the White House. And she was famously the person who said that South Africa doesn't just murder everyone, not just white farmers, but we also rape old women in townships. So that really helped to make the situation much better. But Cosatu is still a thing, and they turned 40, which sort of got me thinking, why do we still have Cosatu? At what point does the ANC understand that this relic of the past should be put out to pasture? It just hurts the government. It just hurts the ANC. I mean, not that we're complaining about that, but the point is that Cosatu still has influence, but they clearly don't understand how the world works, and they stand in the way of progress in South Africa. And of course, while we're on the subject of the tripartite alliance, we must understand that the third leg of that particular tripod was the South African Communist Party, who are very unhappy of the government of national unity. In fact, so unhappy of the government of national unity that they announced that they'll be contesting elections in the local government elections under their own banner. And to show just how powerful they're going to be in those elections, they stood in a recent by-election in Seshego, near Polokwane, in the Limpopo province, and managed to get a full 1% of the vote. Now, I think that what this is showing is that SA Communist Party no longer has a following. Cosatu now is a union for the few people that have jobs and generally in the public sector. Neither of these organizations adds any value to the ANC, and not like I want the ANC to do the right thing, but it's time to get them away from the levers of power. Both of them have toxic ideas that have led to the problems that we find ourselves in South Africa. And that is stagnant economy, more people not working than working, thanks to Cosatu, and SA Communist Party, who still have a great influence on the ideology of many of our politicians that lead to the bad ideas like expropriation without compensation and all these other crazy bills and acts that the ANC seems to think are so important to South Africa. And they just do not work. So it really does beg the question. South Africa finds itself at a critical juncture, at an inflection point. We are either going to move forward or we're going to move backwards. We're either going to become a modern country or we're going to become Zimbabwe. There's no middle ground. We're not going to stay where we are. The numbers don't back that up. We've got no economic growth. So either the country gets better or it gets worse. It doesn't stay where it is. There's no option to stay where it is. We just don't have the tax revenue to stay where we are. So I would say, much like moving house sometimes when you've changed your circumstance or getting rid of an old car or whatever, it's time for these relics of the past, these 20th century organizations like the SA Communist Party and Cosatu to leave political parties. If they want to contest, good luck with that. You'll get 1%, as we saw with the SA Communist Party, and Cosatu, I doubt, would do much better. But I really couldn't help not understanding why Cosatu still exists, let alone the SA Communist Party. That's my view here on the Political Insider. Hope you enjoy it. Please subscribe to the channel and let's grow this thing and let's get rid of Cosatu and the SA Communist Party. Thank you very much.